switched AirPods and the shit worked. The sound worked. And then I switched it because one of them was literally going out and you weren't going to be able to hear me. Sound goes out completely. That is so fucking frustrating to me. It makes me want to go home. But yeah, I took both of them out. So you should be able to hear me. If you cannot hear me, please I don't know why I'm saying please let me know if you cannot hear me, because if you can't hear me, you can't let me know. But anyway, I took both of them out. They're both out. They're in their little cover. They're charging. But yeah, AirPods, they don't last very long, do they? I think I only talked to you guys for like an hour and already they were trying to go out. That kind of pisses me off a little bit. But anyway, let's talk about Justin Timberlake. So, what I was saying when you guys thought I was mute was, when I first met Justin Timberlake, I met him on a show called the MMC, the Mickey Mouse Club. I think he might have been 15 the first time I saw him. But I watched the Mickey Mouse Club for a couple of seasons before Justin, Brittany, Christina, Ryan Gosling all joined the show. So I was there when Tony DeLuca was on the show. Matthew Morrison was my favorite. Matthew Morris. I loved the Mickey Mouse Club. And then they hired a bunch of new kids. The show went on for like 2 more seasons and then it was kaput. But the new kids they hired, JC Chasez was already on the Mickey Mouse Club at the time, but then they hired Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and Ryan Gosling all in the same season. It was an amazing find, amazing catch, really, truly. And also apparently the season that Justin Timberlake got hired for the Mickey Mouse Club was the season they were going to hire Jessica Simpson, but I guess on the last, I think it was on the acting thing, she didn't do very well, so they didn't cast her. Long story short. Anyway, I had liked Justin Timberlake on the Mickey Mouse Club, but he didn't stand out to me because Matthew Morris was my fave and JC was like a smooth second, and so that's where my heart lied. But after the Mickey Mouse Club ended, I followed all the people on the Mickey Mouse Club for a really long time. One of the ladies from Mickey Mouse Club ended up joining the group in Vogue. Dale was on a sitcom for a number of years. I had a high school boyfriend, and one of the girls from the Mickey Mouse Club had a song on the soundtrack to a movie we watched together one time. David, on my other live, I talked about the Diddy stuff a lot. So if you want to go back to my other live, I talked about that for a minute. So yeah, when it came to the Mickey Mouse Club, I followed all the acts. I followed the acts so much that I actually had a cassette of the demo of Britney Spears' first release. I also had bought a copy of the Moulin Rouge, just Mulan. I bought a copy of the Mulan soundtrack to have Reflection by Christina Aguilera. Like, I was following these kids after they left Mickey Mouse Club. In fact, I remember the single that I got from the Britney Spears fan club before she debuted with Hit Me One More Time had the song Sometimes on it. I don't know if you guys are big Britney fans, but it's the Sometimes I Run, Sometimes I Hide. Anyway, I got a cassette copy of that in the mail from her fan club before she debuted. So I say all that to say, because I had been following all of these kids from Mickey Mouse Club, when JC and Justin Timberlake joined NSYNC, I was following them when they debuted in Germany. When they came to the United States, I made sure I bought their debut album. I was obsessed because, again, JC had been my favorite from Mickey Mouse Club, and I was obsessed with all the Mickey Mouse Club kids, so I had been following all of them when they left the show. And JC was my fave in NSYNC. Straight up. I know some people might think it's revisionist history, but JC was my fave. And I loved NSYNC. I knew all the words to all the songs. I used to know all the choreography for Bye Bye Bye. I was in it to win it. And then I remember when Gone came out and feeling like, oh, so this is what's happening. Because Gone came out around the same, like Gone was on the very last NSYNC album, like the full album. Gone was on the last NSYNC album. It was a solo song for Justin Timberlake. At the time, Justin Timberlake was actively dating Britney Spears. And he had gone through this makeover and cut off all the curly hair and had this like really low buzz cut. And I remember thinking, okay, they're prepping us for the guys going solo, and it looks like Justin might be the first. So I followed him, and when he announced that Justify was coming out, I bought a copy the night it came out. I watched him debut the song Like I Love You on the VMAs. I was here for Justin Timberlake. And even though the stuff with Janet happened, even though Crimea River happened, the video, even though he was wild talking about Britney Spears' sex life all the time, I still followed Justin Timberlake. He was my problematic fave. And then, because I am a hypocrite on every sense of the word, the reason I stopped following Justin Timberlake is because of Man of the Woods. Because the music matters to me. And when the music falls off, I tend to fall off. And so even though I was still listening to Justin Timberlake after Justified and all the Britney stuff, even though I was still listening to Justin Timberlake after he pulled the cover off of Janet's titty, I was here when he decided to do, what is the name of the album? Future Sex Love Sounds, bought that. 2020 Experiences 1 and 2, bought that. I was here for Justin Timberlake. But Man of the Woods was bad. It was so bad that it made me feel like I got shook out of a coma. Like, it made me reevaluate everything about Justin Timberlake. I was like, whoa, wait a second. Has he always sounded like this? Has he always been this person? Oh my God, who is this guy? I thankfully never spent any money on Man of the Woods, because at that point in music life, I was streaming stuff before I bought it. So like, when it came to Justified, of course I bought it because there was no streaming at the time. When I bought Future Sex Love Sounds, you could download albums, but why wouldn't you just buy a CD? Because it costs the same as downloading an album. 2020 Experience, I bought both of those because I still had a CD player in my car. By the time Men of the Woods came out, I'm streaming shit. So I was not going to be paying for that before I heard it. But safe to say, I heard Man of the Woods and I was like, this is some bullshit. The songs didn't work for me. There were a lot of weird kind of like mashup country-ish songs, but they were like all the way country, which I'm a black person who listens to country music. I don't listen to a lot of the newer country music, but in the 90s and early 2000s, I listened to country music because I lived in fucking Texas. And so you just couldn't get around the stuff. So you embrace it. And so I was somebody that if Justin Timberlake had done a straight up country track, I would have been down for it. I will be listening to Beyonce's Cowboy Carter when it comes out on Friday. And so Filthy wasn't great. Supplies was embarrassing. Those were two of the singles. And then Man of the Woods, the video and the song was stupid. Say Something would have been better if Justin Timberlake wasn't on it. Like, it was a bad album. And then after Man of the Woods is when people said, okay, this album wasn't great. Time to have a reckoning with Justin Timberlake about all of his problematic behavior. And Justin Timberlake issued a couple of statements. He issued a statement about Janet, but didn't really want to talk about it when he got invited to do the Super Bowl. With the Britney thing, he issued like a kind of narrow, vague-ish apology, but didn't really address everything that he did that contributed to her being victimized. And so here we go with the new Justin Timberlake album. And honestly, I did not listen to any of the singles when they came out. I did not watch his Saturday Night Live performance. The most I did is me and my daughter were watching YouTube and his Tiny Desk came up on the queue, and I knew he was going to do some of the Justified songs, so I'm like, let's see what songs he picks for the set list for this Tiny Desk concert. But really and truly, I barely paid attention as me and my mom talked about, why it is that he's flopping now and why is he staring so hard at the screen. Literally, if you do nothing else after you leave this live stream, go to the NPR channel, watch Justin Timberlake's Tiny Desk only for the first 5 or 6 minutes. There's a section of the Tiny Desk where he's looking at the camera the way I'm looking at you, and this is how he looks. It's wild. It's crazy. So I already had kind of negative feelings about Justin Timberlake going into listening to this new album. But I said, I'm going to give it a listen because I want to know if he has anything to say on this album that could possibly address like this wave of criticism he has received over the years. Also, I remember what somebody said, I think what Sarah said in the comments about him being overly flirtatious with his co-star and the paparazzi catching pictures of him holding hands under the table with her. Also, he went on Ellen and there was a black lady talking. He said something like, "You go, girl," or "That's right, girl." He's made mistakes. Anyway, so I decided to listen to this album because I thought, you know what, maybe Justin is not somebody who's going to say something in a press release and said he's going to turn it into art. A lot of people turn life things into art. I mean, the Ariana Grande album, turning life situations into art. This album sucked. First of all, this album was almost 80 minutes long. It's a long fucking album. And the very last song on the album is a song featuring NSYNC. JC Chasez sounds wonderful on that song, by the way. The song is called Paradise. But it is 80 minutes. And the very first song, Memphis, is him basically saying, "Oh man, being famous isn't everything it's cracked up to be. It's so hard when you're the breadwinner of your household. And it's so terrible when people are taking and you don't have anything left to give. It's so hard to live this famous life. No one told me it was going to be like this." And I'm just like, girl, we are currently in an economic downturn. A lot of people had their budgets killed by inflation. The world's on fucking fire. There's wars everywhere. Trump's probably gonna get back into office. Don't nobody want to hear your "woe is me for being so rich but not having an opportunity to have a child." I don't want to hear that from you. I don't want to hear that from anybody. I don't want to hear that shit from J-Lo. I don't want to hear that shit from Justin Timberlake. I don't want to hear that shit from nobody. You've been famous since you were fucking 15. You are now in your 40s. I don't want to hear, "woe is me, it's so hard to be so rich and famous." That put an immediate bad taste in my mouth. After that, the entire listening experience was downhill. There were a couple decent songs. There's some disco song that's not really a disco song that I liked. There was a song called Imagination I thought was cute. But for the most part, almost every fucking song on that project was 4 minutes or longer, which in the times of TikTok virality, I do not have the attention span to listen to multiple 4.5-minute songs. If you're going to give me multiple 4.5-minute songs, then there needs to be only like 9 songs on the album. I can't sit here for an hour and a half listening to you. If that's the case, release 2 fucking albums. But it is the same, "You're just so beautiful, girl. I'm just so in love with you." Or "I've made mistakes, but you need to forgive me, girl." Or it's like, "I'm gonna have sex with you, girl. You're so hot. I'm fixing to tear that pussy up, girl." Those are the main tropes of this entire album. He sounds the same. Vocally, he's doing the same shit there that he did in Justified 20 fucking years ago. Like, there's been no growth. And it pisses me off because there's no growth in the music. There's no growth in the messages of the music. He writes his own lyrics. So it shows to me there's been no growth in this man. 20 years later, there's so many things he could do. So many things he could say. So many things he could comment on. He could comment on fatherhood. He could comment on being a husband for real. He could comment on the marriage therapy that him and his wife had to go through after he got caught flirting with his co-star. He could talk about, trying to grow and be different and looking at the guy he was in the past and seeing all the faults. Talk about how I was wrong to women and I was overly confident and I had hubris and I'm not that way anymore. I've been working on myself. It's a new world out there and I'm trying to be a part of it. Like, you could do all that lyrically. You can make it beautiful. The production on the album is super gorgeous. Like, really and truly, the production, if those songs were put in the hands of other artists, those songs would really work. Because they're the kind of songs that are arranged and produced so gorgeously that it's just like fill in a voice and you can make that shit happen. But in terms of like this being JT's big return to form and making people want to go out and buy JT albums and go to his concerts, it's not that way no more. it's not that way no more. And a big part of it is that he has learned absolutely nothing, and he's singing the same fucking sounds, except for he's trying to rap a little bit here and there, and trying to use a little bit younger slang, but it's not what he thinks it is. It's not what he thinks it is. And it's just infuriating to me that he has learned nothing. It is infuriating to me that he has learned nothing. And I think what makes it doubly infuriating is that I feel, I can't say for fact, because I don't know, but I feel like if JC Chasez had been given the opportunities that Justin Timberlake had been given, the world would be much better off. I feel like if the entire Justified album had been recorded by JC Chasez, the world would be a better place. And it feels unfair. It feels like we've been gypped for the last 20 years. So that's how I feel about that. That is what I've been listening to. And I guess before I leave here, we will talk very briefly about Jennifer Lopez. I talked about Jennifer Lopez's This Is Me Now on here. I'm pretty sure I talked about it with you guys. For those of you who tune into all the lives, you can verify whether or not I did. But I want to say I told you guys about the fact that me and Stevie sat down and watched This Is Me Now. I will say this. Jennifer Lopez is gorgeous. Like, for a woman who is 50, she don't look 50. She looks fucking amazing. She looks younger than me. It's wild. And you could tell that she spent a lot of her personal money making This Is Me Now. And there's even a couple of songs that I was like, okay, this could be cute. This could be all right. But the way that the TikToks have tore up this woman about her documentary, they have been so rough on this woman that I'm actually scared to watch this documentary. So when I heard about the documentary being called The Greatest Love Story Never Told, and when I heard that the premise of the documentary was her telling the story of making the This Is Me Now project, plus her talking about her love story with Ben Affleck, I remember thinking, Jennifer Lopez doesn't have no real friends. Like, whoever is in Jennifer Lopez's life is either her family or her employees. But there are no real friends in Jennifer Lopez's life. Because if she had real friends, they would have told her, this is beyond self-indulgent. You would have been better off just putting out This Is Me Now and doing that as like a Beyonce-esque visual album. But you then saying, not only are you getting a visual album, but I need you to do the documentary on how I made this masterpiece come to life. I'm so sorry, but you're living in dreamland. You're living in dreamland. Like, is Jennifer Lopez super jealous of Beyonce? I'm not saying that to start shit, but like, is that the case? Is like Jennifer Lopez like Beyonce's career should have been my career, and that's the reason why she did this? Is she like, I'm doing a mashup of like Homecoming and Lemonade, but like Jennifer Lopez style? Because let's start with Jennifer Lopez is not a strong singer, never has been, probably never will be. Let's forward that into, while she is a good dancer, there are limits to her dancing abilities at her current age and level of activity, because there's this one scene where she's dancing with an umbrella that is fucking wild. Let's continue that with, people are so sick of her and Ben Affleck. They were sick of her and Ben Affleck in the 2000s. They're still sick of her and Ben Affleck. The only time we want to see her and Ben Affleck is in a Dunkin' Donuts commercial. Real talk. Also, Jennifer Lopez, maybe no one told you this. I feel like because you don't have any friends, you don't know this. It's been a long time since you were on the forefront of popular culture. The direct-to-prime video movies that you've been doing have been incredibly cute, but the Jennifer Lopez A-list star that you believe that you occupy at all times has really settled into the kind of, being married to Ben Affleck has kept you on like the borderland of A and B, but it's not what you think. It's not what you think. And if you had real friends, they would have told you to get Amazon or Netflix to give you $5 million, do your little project, and then scoot the fuck on. But when the clips from the documentary with her emphasizing how ultra girl from the Bronx she is, it reminds me when I was a little girl running down the streets of the Bronx. Like, listen, I know in your current life, none of the shit you do in your current life is relatable to other people. There's no fucking way that Jennifer Lopez, with her huge mansion and flying off to different countries to perform mid-music and, you know, continuing to show up on red carpets and whatnot. I understand. Ham and cheese, not even a bacon, egg, and cheese or a chopped cheese. Ham and cheese, girl, whatever. I'm digressing. Not even jamon and cheese. Ham and cheese. Okay, I'm digressing. I know Jennifer Lopez. Nothing about Jennifer Lopez's life would be relatable to us in terms of what her current life is. So that's why she continues to fall back on when I was a girl in the Bronx, when I was a teenager in the Bronx, when I was just getting started as a background dancer, because that's the last moment in her life that she and others can identify as being her living in the world that most people live in. But baby, that's been 30 years ago. Selena came out when I was in high school. I haven't been in high school in a really long time. It's been pretty much 30 years. You're going to have to let that story go. You really are going to have to let that story go. You're going to have to find something else. You know, you're a mother. You're a mother. That's relatable. I too am a madre. We could rap about that. But no, instead it's when I was a girl in the Bronx. Like, get over it. It's been 30 years since you were a girl in the Bronx. Get over it. Also, not for nothing, and I think I might have mentioned this when I talked about This Is Me Now. If I was her kids, I'd be a little bit offended because the whole thing about This Is Me Now is how she spent her entire life looking for love, and that she never found love until she met Ben Affleck, and the trauma of their falling out caused her to go through all this trauma in her life, and she wasn't able to recapture love until, one, she apologized to her younger self, and two, got back with Ben Affleck. Well, her kids are not Ben Affleck's kids. Her kids are her children that she had with Marc Anthony. And her and Marc Anthony were together for a good chunk of time. If I was her kid and you were talking about how you never really loved my dad and you portray your marriage to my dad as a huge mistake, and you never mentioned how, like, I found love through the birth of my children. In fact, your children aren't even characters in your false narrative of your life. I'd be a little touched with the hurt bug. I'd be a little affected by the pain bug. I would be a little upset. Like, where the fuck are we in the narrative? She literally does a whole opening sequence about how her heart died when she broke up with Ben Affleck. And that she wasn't able to fuel the flowering of her heart until they got back together. Well, what were you loving on your babies with then? Like, girl, come on, be real. Be fucking for real. Anywhoots, Jennifer Lopez, big L. Big L. Big L. Somebody asked me about Quiet on the Set. I have not watched Quiet on the Set, but I still have thoughts because I read. I knew all of this wild sexual gross shit was happening at Nickelodeon because for years different child actors had come out and said that Dan Snyder was a weirdo. Like, it was literally a joke on Tumblr about his fascination with feet jokes. And so that had always been a thing. Jeanette McCurdy, in her biography, I'm Glad My Mom Died and I'm Glad, she talked about how weird things were on the set at Nickelodeon when she was doing iCarly. So this was not new news to me. What was new news was the Brian Peck and the other gentlemen who were pedophiles and child rapists that were working on the sets of the different Nickelodeon shows. That was news to me because up until Quiet on the Set, I don't think that Drake Bell's name had been released as being the person who accused Brian Peck of sexual abuse. So that was news to me. And then the other guy, never even heard of him. But Dan Schneider, yes, it had always been told that he was super abrasive, super volcanic, and people had talked about how working on the set with him, he was a massive perv and was super biased, and if you were on his bad side, then you were fucked. So that had been a thing that I had been hearing about for a number of years. But what I have found interesting is, number one, the African American children, the black children who have come to speak about their treatment on Nickelodeon shows, I find to be illuminating because some of the most famous kids to make it out of Nickelodeon shows happen to be black boys. Nick Cannon and Kenan Thompson, who's on Saturday Night Live. Huge celebrities, came from all that. And then, of course, the female stars that have come out of there, Ariana Grande is really known for singing. Amanda Bynes, Jeanette McCurdy is an author, really and truly. But a lot of the girls don't really make it big out of Nickelodeon. Disney seems to have the market cornered on like child to adult stars. And I had not heard anything from some of these other black children that had been on these Dan Schneider shows, so that was illuminating for me to hear about their experiences, especially Keke Palmer. You're right, David. She would be a standout. Especially the story about the little boy who, I want to say he played a superhero character and all that called Nose Boy, and he had a costume on that had like a circle with a picture of a nose on it, and then he had like a big prosthetic nose on, and then he had a nose on his shoulder and a nose on the other shoulder, but the nose, like all you can see is like one nostril and then like the bridge of the nose in profile. And by the time all that was going on, I was like really too grown to watch all that. But when you look at the picture of this little boy in this outfit, it looks like he has two long brown penises aimed at his face. I'm not making this up. I saw the clip on TikTok. It looks like he has two large brown penises aimed at his face. He sneezes, and then they show this lady covered in clear goo, which looks very much like ejaculate. And this is the shit that Nickelodeon let air. What looked to be a very obvious penis joke. You know, there's depraved people who like to build a career around children. Just saying. There are some people who really are building their careers around children because of their traumatic past as kids and their desire to provide safe spaces for kids. But there are a lot of people who work around children because they like having access to children, straight up and down. And as we pay our teachers less and less in these school systems, there's more and more people who are willing to take pennies on the dollar to be employed in order to have access to children. Not saying, just saying. But pushing that to the side a little bit, what I have found super weird are two things to come out of the Quiet on the Set documentary. One, people's insistence that Amanda Bynes and Ariana Grande make comments about this documentary. Why the fuck should they? Why do they have to? Why should Ariana Grande, who they show a clip of her having to do something nasty on Victorious, why should she have to do anything regarding Dan Schneider when it's very obvious from what they showed that she was one of the victims of his nasty, perverted imagination? Amanda Bynes, who had a Finsta-style Twitter account called Ashley Banks, where she told the entirety about her experiences on Nickelodeon, her abuses on Nickelodeon, told it years ago, and who's still dealing with the trauma of that experience, plus the trauma of dealing with her stage parents. Why should she have to tell anything to you? Why should she have to make any kind of statement? If she wanted to talk, she could have been on the documentary. She didn't want to. So why is it that we demand victims talk instead of demanding retribution from the abusers? Why do the victims have to talk? And also, why is it that the women have to talk? I just mentioned how two of the biggest Nickelodeon stars to come out the fold are Nick Cannon and Kenan Thompson. Why are there not huge calls for those two to talk, especially Nick Cannon? Nick Cannon was on all that too. He was a big presence on all that and managed to finesse his presence on all that into him doing Drumline and doing other media, and then getting on America's Got Talent, and then getting on, what's the show he's on? It's that Korean show, Mystery Singer, I forget, Masked Singer, The Masked Singer. Anyway, Nick Cannon has made millions of dollars from his time from a child actor onward. Why is no one questioning him about what did you experience? Why didn't you say anything? They don't ask him those questions, but two women who are very obviously victims, why are they being demanded to speak? It doesn't make no sense to me. Kenan Thompson has been on SNL for 20 years. Why isn't it he being asked to speak? Doesn't make any sense to me. The other thing about this Quiet on the Set, in terms of reactions to it, that has really bothered me is the way that people are going boohoo baby girl to Drake Bell. Now, I'm not saying that Drake Bell deserved any of the abuse he suffered under Brian Peck. I would never say that. I don't believe that. I think it is a damn shame that Brian Peck ruined this man in terms of his teenage years, in terms of basically splitting his fucking family up and alienating him from his father. That is terrible. I don't approve of it, and I feel bad that that happened to him. But Drake Bell turned around and groomed a young girl that he met when she was like 12 or something. He started being sexually inappropriate to her when she was like 15, 16. And actually got charges brought against him and was convicted for those charges. I think he pled out on those. This was during the time that he was going to change his name to Drake Campagna. But yeah, Drake Bell is also a fucking predator. And people are like, Josh Peck needs to do a formal statement on what happened to Drake Bell because they were on a show together. Josh Peck had his own bullshit going on during that time. I don't know if people remember, but I remember on Drake and Josh, when Josh Peck had to be the butt of endless fat jokes all the time. All the time. I imagine that shit is traumatic. He talked about how that shit fucked him up and he was on drugs for a number of years. And so, yeah, Josh Peck was dealing with his own bullshit. And he didn't ask Drake Bell to apologize for being a part of numerous skits calling him fucking fat. That didn't happen. So, saying that Josh Peck, who is not related to Brian Peck at all, and who did not have any part of Drake Bell's abuse, needs to make a statement in support of Drake Bell, even though Drake Bell himself is a predator, that shit's wild to me. That shit's wild to me. And if I was Josh Peck, I'd have come straight out and said, I don't have shit to say about somebody who groomed a child. Sad to hear that any child is abused, but I mean it when I'm saying I'm sad to hear that any child is abused. And once you become a grown-up, you have a responsibility not to abuse children. Straight up and down. So, why are we acting like everyone in the world needs to cry tears for Drake Bell, but then we're not also saying like, and did you get therapy after that? Are you making amends and reparations to your victim? Why didn't Quiet on the Set ask Drake Bell about his victim? Because by the time they had interviewed Drake Bell, he had already made his plea. So why aren't we talking to him about the people that he victimized? Why isn't that a series of questions? Especially because, honestly, they say that a lot of people who are victims go on to victimize. That would have been really insightful to say, like, when you found yourself in the position of being convicted for the grooming of a child, did you get therapy after to see what connection your predatory behavior had to do with the predatory behavior that was enacted on you? That would have been a beautiful question to ask. That would have been a beautiful thing to explore. But they didn't. And that's the thing. When you're watching documentaries, I think because documentaries are framed as real as opposed to scripted, we look at documentaries as being like, arbiters of truth. But documentaries are just as scripted as anything else out there. The questions are written ahead of time. People are briefed on what they're going to be asked. They're asked to provide materials in order to be able to create this documentary. Like, these are all very planned out pieces of media. So in the planning stages of making this documentary, why wouldn't we talk to him about his own abuse? Because that is the elephant in the room. That is the woolly mammoth in the room. So I haven't watched Quiet on Set because, like I said, I already knew about a lot of the abuses, and the ones I didn't know, I've seen clips of, and also because if you're not going to ask Drake Bell about his own accountability, then what are we really here for? But yeah, I just, that's how I feel about that, and that's it. I don't really have anything else to say. But yeah, we've been talking now for a while, so I think I'm good to go. But, hopefully I'll have listened to some more music by the next time we get together, and we'll be able to talk about that. But anybody who missed the first part of my live stream, it's still on there. It's called Titles Are Hard, and I talked about Diddy. I talked about Autumn from Tiara. I talked about the NCT Dream album. I talked about the Baltimore Bridge going down. I talked about a few things there. So if you want to look at that, feel free. And then I was going to talk to you guys about food. I was going to say something about food. Straight up. Oh, I know what I was going to say about food. So at my job, we had this day full of food. Like, we had Chipotle for lunch, and then we had a vendor take us out for drinks and appetizers. And I had a plate bigger than my head, filled with calamari for $10. And I know some of you hate seafood, so what I'm saying about calamari means nothing to you. But in the United States, calamari is relatively expensive because I live in a state that is not surrounded by ocean or sea. So we just don't have calamari swimming around here. So importing seafood makes seafood expensive. And calamari is one of my favorite foods, and I was able to get a full platter calamari for $10. And that really made my fucking day. It also ruined my stomach, and it makes me want to change my life. But at the same time, it was super duper delicious. It was golden fried. They had this really flavorful marinara sauce to dip it in. It could use a little bit more salt, but that's neither here nor there. But it was super duper good. So that's what I would say about food. Nothing important. I don't have anything impressive to share. I'm trying to eat different things. That is one thing I'm trying to do. I feel like sometimes in the winter I get in a food rut because there's certain foods that I don't want in the winter. Like, I don't want to eat sandwiches when it's cold. I don't mind soups and stuff like that, but I don't like sandwiches when it's cold. I don't want to eat cold things in the cold. I know they say like ice cream sales go up in winter, which I still don't understand that, but I'm not a big cold in the cold. So I look forward to spring so I can get back on my sandwich grind, because if there's one thing you should know about me, when hot weather hits, you can find me with a cold cut. I am all about sandwiches in the summer, especially like chicken salad sandwiches, tuna salad sandwiches, turkey sandwiches, even like subs. I'll do subs every once in a while, like, Philly cheesesteak sub, meatball sub. But yeah, I am a sandwich girl in the summer and spring. So I hope this weather changes, because I'm tired of eating heavy stuff, but I don't feel like eating anything else because it's so fucking dreary outside. So I live in the state of Colorado, which that's not me doxing myself. I've talked about this many, many times, but I live in Colorado, and about 2 weeks ago, we had huge, huge snows. We had like fucking, where I lived, we had like a foot and a half. But in Denver and in the Castle Rock area, there were areas in Castle Rock that got like 3 feet of snow. Like 2 weeks ago. It was wild. And I've been like, God damn it, the snow keeps coming. We're not going to get to warm weather, and I'm not going to get to my fucking sandwiches. And I've been craving a chicken salad sandwich, but the idea of eating a cold sandwich just totally turns me off because it's so fucking cold outside. So, I don't know. I'm being nitpicky and I'm being weird, and I should just get over myself, but I just really want it to warm up so I can start eating all of my cold things again. Sushi. I don't like to eat sushi in the winter. I like to eat sushi in the summer because usually I get it from the grocery store out of the cold section because I don't live in Japan, so I'm eating grocery store sushi, but it's nice and cold, and I like to eat it while it's nice and cold, and I can't do that right now because it's too fucking cold outside. So that's me being picky. But anyway, thank you guys for joining me for my second part of my live stream because goodness knows you didn't have to. I've been talking for a minute. It's late for some of you. It's a little late for me actually. It's like 9:35 where I'm at. But yeah, thank you for taking the time. And I started the first stream talking about Aram, but before we go, I want to talk to you about you because I noticed that people in my life have really been questioning if they're currently doing the right thing. I'm not talking about Stevie or like my family. I'm talking about like people I work with, people I talk to have been like, I really want to break out of my rut, but I feel comfortable. Not comfortable like I'm happy with my situation, but like the situation I'm in doesn't feel wrong enough for me to really make a move. So I'm not gonna make a move. And honestly, that's been me too. I've been thinking about making a move lately, but you know, I rely on my income and I don't want to put all of the bills and other shit that I have on my back in danger of not being taken care of because I'm making less money, or what if I go to this new job and it doesn't work out and then I find myself jobless, like those kind of things. Relationships. Some of us are stuck with people that, you know, they're okay, but they're not great, and they do stuff that really hurts our feelings, or they do stuff that really makes us question how they feel about us. But you know, if we break up, I'll have to try to move, and rent is high, so what do I do? And I'm just gonna say, if you haven't talked to yourself about it recently, remind yourself about the sunken cost fallacy, because I have to remind myself of that all the time. Sometimes we're unhappy, but we're comfortably unhappy. We're unhappy in a way that, like, yeah, things could be better, but I'm not so pressed about the situation that I'm going to change. And then that needle can slowly move towards, I really need to get out of this situation, but I've already put X amount of energy into the situation, and if I change now, I'll lose everything I put into this. Eventually, as that needle changes and you get closer and closer towards this is horrible, you'll find that all the things that you're wanting to preserve in terms of equity don't mean anything anymore. I imagine that being married to somebody after having dated for however many years and having kids together and all of those other things for Autumn made her feel like, I can't get out of my marriage. Look at how invested I am in this. But what does it matter all the years you spent, all the beautiful gowns you wore for your wedding photos and to attend your wedding, if you've got somebody who is gambling away your money, beating you and your kids, abusing you? What does that matter? What does all that time matter in the face of somebody who is destroying everything else about you? And while not as dire a situation might be what's going on in your life, but what is it in your life that you are continuing to say, I can hold out because it hasn't gotten that bad, but also because I've already put the energy into this, I don't want to waste my energy. because the sooner you can change it, the less energy you're wasting. And that's the sunken cost fallacy. It's the idea that what was put in the past is worth more than what you can get in the future. And trust me, once you get stuck in a foul fucking situation, it ruins everything else it touches. So, in case you've been looking for the impetus to go out and put your resume on Indeed, the impetus to go out and maybe try running, run 1 minute, walk 1 minute. If you've been looking for the impetus to go out there and maybe make a friend, maybe go to that K-pop concert, maybe go to that K-pop meetup in the nearest big city, fucking do it. Because the more you say, well, I'm comfortable where I'm at and it would cost money to go, and what if things, sure, what if? But what if? What if bad? But what if good? Just go. Just do. Don't risk a safety issue. Like, don't risk your housing if you know you're going to be unhoused, but, you know, other things. Just go out there and take a chance. Because from what I've been told, we only get one life. And so, why waste that life in mediocrity when maybe you can make something personally really great for yourself? That's all I have. You guys take care.